Malik Nabers is on injured reserve. So, how did the Giants go about replacing him? Locked on Giants starts right now.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all of my written work. And as always, we welcome on in our Blue Crew community members, our everydayers, our newcomers, and everybody in between. And we thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. In today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, Giant fans, on today's program, it happened. Malik Nabers is on IR. He suffered a torn ACL. The Giants, where do they go from here? I mean, when you lose a player of Malik Nabers' category, where do you go from here? So we're going to look at some possibilities. And I am going to give you the name of a receiver who might just be available. And no, it's not necessarily Odell Beckham Jr. So we'll get into that in just a moment. Then in segment 2, I promised you I'd take a deep dive into the red zone woes. So I went and I did that with the help of True Media. So I have some data for you on the red zone, including what the Giants have been doing differently now that Jackson Dart is the quarterback. So we'll break all that down for you in segment 2. And then we'll wrap things up in segment 3 with my interview with Giants slot cornerback Dru Phillips, who had a pretty good game against the Los Angeles Chargers. So Dru Phillips, last Friday, he was part of a surprise initiative where he went down to a local high school and gave away some football equipment and whatnot. And so we talked a little bit about that. We also talked about the Giants defense, and I will have that for you in segment 3. All right. So that is our list of topics for today, and let's get into it. All right. Malik Nabers, unfortunately, did have a torn ACL. We kind of knew it when we saw it, but it was confirmed today by head coach Brian Daboll. Now, you just don't replace a guy with Malik Nabers' talents. It's very, very hard to do because he does so many things so well. He's versatile. He can play in the slot if you need him to. He can play the X. You can line him up wherever, and he will get you yardage. So how did the Giants replace that? The obvious answer, if the Giants, who right now don't have a whole lot of cap space, is you hope that the guys on the roster already step up. That could be what they are looking to do initially. The other answer, obviously, is to hold workouts. You might find out on Tuesday, in fact, that the Giants did bring in receivers to work them out to see if maybe somebody had something left in the tank, such as Odell Beckham Jr., perhaps, right? The other option with replacing Malik Nabers is you can poach a player off somebody's practice squad. But if you do that, now you have to, I believe, keep the guy for 4 weeks, and you have to upgrade the pay. So that is a possibility. Here's a possibility, though, that I don't think a lot of people have mentioned, and that is trading for a receiver. Okay, so hear me out on this. A quarterback needy team that might appreciate Russell Wilson and have a receiver available to trade that doesn't cost a lot and who is experienced and who is versatile enough. Maybe if you're the Giants, you look into such a trade. And yes, I have a specific player in mind and a specific team in mind. That player is Van Jefferson of Tennessee. Now, down in Tennessee, as you probably know, they are having a really rough time, probably more so than the Giants. The Titans supposedly want to get younger. They want to give Cam Ward, their new quarterback, younger receivers to grow old with, if you will. Van Jefferson does not fit that mold. And Van Jefferson has actually seen his targets drop. Okay, so far this year, he has 4 receptions on 4 targets for 24 yards. Van Jefferson is signed to a 1-year, $1.17 million contract. So if you take that 1.17 million and divide it by 17, and you get the per weekly salary that he gets. Okay, so let's say the Giants acquired him in week 6. All right. The first 5 weeks, the Titans are responsible for that salary. So from week 6, the week that the Giants would acquire a guy via trade, that's when they began to pick up the weekly salary. So the cap hit would be significantly lower than maybe what you would see on Over the Cap or Spot Track, right? Because it's not going to be the full amount. That is a possibility that the Giants can look into if they wanted to. I think what they're going to do is they're going to see if they can't get some of these other guys already on the roster to step up. Now, will it work? I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Van Jefferson is going to be, an apples to apples comparison for Malik Nabers, because he's not. But that might be a good option if you're the Giants. So curious to see if the Giants go that route. Now, another guy they can maybe look at, they can go to Buffalo and maybe see if Curtis Samuel is an option. I don't know that they want to take on Curtis Samuel, because Curtis Samuel has a little larger cap hit. And I don't think that would necessarily work. Tyreek Hill of Miami, I can't see the Giants going down that path. Don't see it at all. I know a lot of you have said to me, oh, they got to sign Beckham. Well, if Beckham is willing to be reasonable with a salary and he still has some juice left in the tank, maybe that happens. But I think if you're the Giants, given the other injury situation you have, you maybe look to get the guys on the roster you already have, get them to play at a higher level. Now, the Giants, for what it's worth, they have 2 open spots on their roster, because they also waived Tamon Fox as part of the transactions on Monday. So Nabers went to IR, Tamon Fox was waived. You wonder if one of those spots is going to go to a kicker, which, by the way, the Giants don't have to make that decision just yet. They can bring up Jude McIntyre another 2 more times before he's subject to waivers. And then if they wanted to, they can even switch to, Young Ho Koo. But the Giants, they have some other injury issues. They're still a little thin on the D line. Inside linebacker is still an issue. And, ultimately they're going to run out of roster exemptions, or not roster exemptions, practice squad elevations at linebackers. So I think that's why they opened up a couple roster spots. So as far as receiver goes, like I said, they can look to trade if the guys on the roster don't step up. I think they'll maybe try it a week, see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, then maybe they make that kind of move. We'll see. One other note I want to make about Malik. If there is a silver lining to this whole scenario, and I know injuries are never silver linings, but Malik Nabers suffered this injury early in the season, which means he's going to have basically almost a full year to recover from it. So the odds that he's going to be ready for the start of next season, very, very good, as opposed to if he suffered this injury maybe, late in the season, late December, early January, then you're probably pushing it. So I know that's a small consolation, but here's hoping Malik Nabers makes a speedy recovery, that no other ligaments were damaged. Head coach Brian Dable didn't say if they were. He just said ACL. So I'm fingers crossed. There's nothing else wrong with his knee, and he comes back fully healthy and ready to go. And, those of you who've asked me, well, is he done now? Is he going to lose his speed? Is he going to lose his quickness? Not necessarily. Adrian Peterson returned from ACL surgery. Saquon Barkley returned from ACL surgery. And those guys were no worse for the wear. So don't give up hope, Giant fans. Malik is young. He's got that on his side. He's got time on his side. Keep the faith. He will be back. He will be back better than ever come next year. I believe that. All right, Giant fans, coming up next, we're going to take a look at the Giants' red zone woes. What have they been doing? What's been their success rate? We'll break that all down for you right after this. Hey, Giant fans, you know the saying, look good, feel good? The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, but they feel stiff, hot, and high maintenance. That's why there's Mizzen and Main. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics so that it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they perfected it ever since. Their shirts are stretchy, moisture wicking, wrinkle resistant, and machine washable. There's no ironing, no dry cleaning. And their stylish fashions make it easy to go from the office to dinner or even out on the golf course and still feel comfortable all day. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off their first purchase at mizzenandmain.com when you use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com. That promo code is LOCKEDONNFL20 to get 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. Giant fans, the NFL season is here and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. Coming up this week, we have Crossover Thursday. I'm excited about this one coming up because I get to do it with the man with the brightest smile on the Locked On Podcast Network, Ross Jackson, host of Locked On Saints. So Ross and I will break down the upcoming Week 5 New York Giants, New Orleans Saints game down in the Bayou. So check that out. That'll be Crossover Thursday. And also, if you don't already know, we have the Giants Squad Show hosted by Jay Berman. The midweek edition features Jay, myself, and former Giants cornerback Mark Collins. And then after every game, you've got a post-game wrap-up hosted by Jay, Mark, and Brandon Olson. He steps in for me while I'm doing post-game. So do check out the Giants Squad Show Thursday, 1 o'clock. It's a live stream. We go about an hour. And then again, after the game, they go about an hour as well. So check that out. All right, Giant fans, let's get into the red zone. Now, the Giants' red zone offense is just not been very good. And it didn't matter, that they had a new quarterback last week. It was still not good. They were 2 of 5 in the red zone. And the success rate for a red zone is you have to score touchdowns. If you're settling for field goals, that's not going to do it. So although the Giants scored 4 times out of the 5 times they were in the red zone, only 2 were touchdowns. So with the help of True Media, I went and looked up high red zone, low red zone. I looked up pass in the shotgun, no shotgun, and running to figure out how the Giants did. And I used the criteria of success rate. And by that, I mean, in this instance, a success rate is defined as picking up 50% or more of the required yardage on first and second down, and first down or goal on third and fourth. All right, that's all combined into a formula to determine a team's success rate. All right, so let's break this down. The Giants' success rate when they are not in the shotgun in the passing game, 28.6%, which is 25th in the league. When they are in the shotgun, 22.5%, 31st in the league. Now, you have heard me say before that I suspected that a big problem for the Giants in the red zone is they have slow developing plays. That's one such instance where they're in the shotgun, supposedly to give the quarterback some time to manipulate, maneuver, whatever, and the plays take forever to develop. So that's one example. Now, the distance or goal to the amount of yards needed while in the red zone, when the Giants have needed 10 to 19 yards, their success rate with the shotgun, 26.1%, 27th in the league. Without the shotgun, 33.3%, 20th in the league. So the Giants doing a little bit better so far without the shotgun because it's a quicker play, more of a bang-bang type of play. Now, when the Giants have had 0 to 9 yards to go, they have, with the shotgun, 17.6, 31st in the league, and 25% conversion rate, or success rate, I should say, which is 28th in the league when it's not the shotgun. So across the board, the numbers prove that when they are not in the shotgun, they have done a little bit better. Still not where they need to be, but a little bit better. All right, now let's take a look at the running game and how that's fared. The running game, 33.3% success rate, 28th in the league. When they need between 10 and 19 yards, or when they're 10 and 19 yards out, I should say, they are 23rd in the league, having a 35.7% success rate. When they're 0 to 9 yards out, 30% success rate, which is 26th in the league. So the run game, you would think, would be a little bit more efficient when they are further out. But there's a caveat. You can't be having wide runs because when you have wide runs, the defense can string those runs out. So what the Giants have done, particularly this last game that they played, run it up the gut. And in order for that to happen, you need your offensive line to be stout up front at the point of attack. Giants had a little bit better luck with that in the game against the Chargers. Now, I looked at week 4. The Giants on their 2 touchdown drives inside the red zone. One was an RPO run right up the gut by Jackson Dart. The other one, the 3-yard shovel pass to tight end Theo Johnson, Dart actually started to run, which drew the defenders to Dart's right side. Okay, Dart was starting to go to the right, and then he kind of shoveled it back to Theo Johnson, who was swinging around from the left side and was able to burst up the middle to get the score. So it was a nice design play. It wasn't just one of these panic plays where Jackson Dart was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get tackled. It was actually a design play. So the Giants, I think if they can run the ball a little bit more inside the red zone, which they hadn't really done a good job of the first 3 games, they might have a little bit better success. And as far as the shotgun, using the shotgun, it hasn't worked for them yet. When they've lined up under center, that's worked a little bit better. Still a long ways to go. Still a lot of room for improvement in terms of, the whole operation with red zone. But I'm curious to track it now that Jackson Dart is in there. We don't have a huge sample size, but over the next few weeks, when we accumulate more of a sample size, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a comparison and also see if there's a definite trend towards, say, more runs up the middle or more, RPOs or whatever the case may be. But I will say this much. I think the fact that Jackson Dart is apt at running RPOs and using his mobility I think that will potentially help the Giants a little bit more in the red zone. We saw glimpses of it. We need to see a little bit more because, again, it's such a small sample size. So we'll keep an eye on that, and I'll research that as we get a little further down, a few more games under our belts with Jackson Dart as the starting quarterback. All right, Giant fans, coming up next, my exclusive interview with Giants slot cornerback, Dru Phillips. So don't go anywhere.
This episode is brought to you by Rougiette. I know that you've probably heard of Viagra and Cialis, maybe even tried them, but if you're looking for something that goes beyond the usual pill, then it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Their 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, kicks in fast, on average in about 15 minutes, while some of those usual pills can take up to hours, and the effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can always stay confident in control when the moment is right. And it's all completely online. You can read real customer reviews on their website, and over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Just head over to Rougiette.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information.
All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And in just a moment, I'm going to play my full interview with New York Giants slot cornerback, Dru Phillips. We'll talk about the little surprise that he was a part of when he presented a local school with some new equipment. We'll talk a little bit about the Giants defense and the struggles that they've had. We'll talk about his particular season and how it's been going. Dru's a really great guy. I hope you enjoy the interview. So without any further delay, let's get into it. All right, Giant fans, I am pleased to be joined by New York Giants slot cornerback, Dru Phillips, second-year cornerback. He's here. And he's going to talk about a special promotion he's got going on, a special event that he's going to be a part of. You're not going to want to miss it. But before we get to that, obviously, Dru, first off, welcome and thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Dru is one of the Giant players, the young Giant players that I think has a very, very bright future. So, but Dru, let's start off talking about the season. I know it hasn't quite gone the way you guys expected. And, basically when then things start to go south, how do you guys kind of keep your spirits up and not say, oh my God, here we go again?
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things where you just fall to your fundamentals, your basic training. So for us and the guys, we've been working all offseason. We know kind of who we are. It just takes some time right now. So it's one of those things where don't change what you're doing, keep everything the same, but like pay attention to details, keep honing down details and be who we are.
Dru, we often hear about defensive coordinators or coaches trying to put the players in the best position, but how much of that is on the players to make sure that they're in the best position? In other words, do we maybe put a little too much blame on the defensive coordinator to line everybody up?
Yeah, I mean, each one of these calls, it's the players that makes the call come to life. They can call whatever they want, but the players have to go out there and execute to a high level. So it ultimately all falls on each player just to execute and do their individual assignment to the highest level.
You're in your second year now. Where do you see and I know, by the way, that the season has just kind of started, but where do you see the biggest growth in your game from last year?
Yeah, for my growth, it's been a lot more on the mental side. So this year, I'm out there making the calls. I don't really feel confused out there. Like I feel confident in my abilities and what I am asked to do each and every week. So I say that's the biggest one. That's just me and my mind.
Dru, you faced some very good receivers over your short career. Is there one or two in particular that has really kind of taught you a lot about the game? Maybe things that you took for granted or didn't know. And, after you got done playing them, looking at the film, you said, oh my gosh.
Yeah, for us, it's almost everybody in our division. Every single week within our division, we go against two guys. So each one of those guys, and when I get out the game, I'm like, okay, if I was more disciplined on my leverage on this play, or um, my discipline on my leverage display, or like if I move my feet better right there, it would have made the biggest difference. So I would say just going against those guys in the division as well as Malik in practice. He's another big guy because you see a guy like him every week most times.
Speaking of Malik and all those guys for that matter, what kind of growth have you seen in Malik and young guys like Jalen Hyatt, who we haven't seen a whole lot of yet on the field? Just what have you seen from them and Wandale especially?
They're all growing as well, just like they're all growing a lot well, which is cool to see because you go against them and they may like whip something new out, and you're like, oh, I didn't know you did that. But it's just part of the growth part of being in the league. So I think each of those guys, especially in that receiver room, they're taking a big role with leadership wise and really just taking control and then trying to expand on what they have to help out our offense in any way.
Drew, you have a couple of new members to that defensive secondary in Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo. Can you just talk about the chemistry and how that has come along with those guys?
Yeah, those two guys, they've been really helpful for me. Debo, he helps me out a lot. He's been around the league for a long time, so when he comes in there, he's just like, Drew, maybe you should try to play something this way. I'm not trying to change your game up, but play it like this, and like for the understanding of the game. He helps out me a lot with that and just kind of how to play things down and distance wise. And I really appreciate everything he says. And then with Vaughn, he's a lot more of like Vaughn could be a D coordinator one day. Like he's so smart in that term. So him on like the smart side and kind of makes me open my eyes up to a lot of the way our scheme's set up and how it's supposed to be played. So when you bring in two veteran guys like that, especially for a guy like me, like I listen to everything they say and I take it. So it's really cool to have those guys.
What specifically, though, have they kind of taught you maybe that you didn't know last year in terms of, I don't know, prep or taking care of yourself or anything to that degree?
I would just say awareness on the field, like down and distance awareness, situational ball. They've there's times when I'm even out there telling me like, Drew, no, do this. I'm like, okay, I trust you guys. Like I'll do this, and no, they're always usually right. So like they've gave me a lot more awareness on like down and distance and how to play certain routes.
Now, you also have a new position coach this year. What kind of a difference in terms of what the coach has been teaching you, and how has that impacted your game?
Yeah, so my coaches, so M and Pops and JB, they've all came in and they each have a different type of approach, but it's all different types of ways that gets to me in like different ways. So like M, he'll come in, he brings the energy every day. He's the overall DB coach, and he just finds a way to make these meetings like really interesting, but as well as he's not just telling you, he's lived through it as well. So it's real life scenarios, and he's all about the players like helping us out. So he's every single day he's in there trying to figure stuff out with us. So I appreciate that. And then I have Pops, which is more my nickel coach. And every single day he's fine tuning me. He's always on me, walkthroughs, meetings, how I walk around the hallways. So like he's on me in every last bit. So these coaches that I have now, they're all about making you better as a man as well as on the field. So I really respect them.
Drew, I don't know if you can pinpoint this, but so far this season, the defense has held up, except for like towards the end of the game, whether it's fatigue, whether it's something else. Have you guys put a finger on why U.S. defense can't finish the games the way you want to?
No, I mean that just comes down to one of the things that we have talked about, which is just finishing. Like finishing the fourth is really important, and we got to find ways to do that better throughout these first few weeks. And we're fine tuning right now, but we just got to finish more.
Now, in terms of the message going forward, I know today's day off for you, but what's the mood in the locker room right now? I mean, that was a heartbreaker loss against Kansas City on Sunday night. You're facing a 3-0 Chargers team that, is playing pretty good football. It doesn't get any easier this schedule. What's the overall message or mood, do you think, in the locker room to keep everybody, focused and moving forward?
The overall mood I would say is just keep it moving. Like it sucks, but you got to put it behind you and move on next week. Each week is a brand new week. So now we go into a great opponent this week. So we're excited for it. And I think like we are still positive. We do still like you can't have the amount of guys that we have and just be down. Like we know we have it. We just got to put it all together. So I think we're still positive.
All right. So, Dru, standing back there in the defensive secondary, you get to see Abdul Carter, you get to see, Darius Alexander, some of the new pieces they brought in up front. Can you just talk about the job those guys have been doing and how they complement what you guys do on the back end?
Yeah, I want to start off with Da. He's been making strides each and every week, which is cool to see. He's kind of near. He went to Toledo, so it wasn't too far from me. So like I always kind of like kept up, and I keep up with him, and it's cool to see each. We can see each week the growth that he brings. So it's really promising for him, and I'm excited to see how much more he can grow throughout these weeks and years. And then you have Abdul, which Abdul's been Abdul. He's a really good player, and he's finding different ways to get to the quarterback and just disrupt the game. And it's really cool to see. Like now, I'm kind of a year and see these young guys. They have their ups and downs trying to figure out the league, and like it's really cool to see them grow each and every week. So I'm excited.
What about some of the veterans that they brought in, like Roy Robertson Harris working alongside of Dex and, having Dex back and then, some of these other guys that are up front? I mean, how do they kind of, factor in for you?
Yeah. Having some of those new guys in like Roy's a really good piece to have on our team. Leadership wise as well as play. He's really good. He's really good on the field. And in the locker room, he's a really cool guy as well. So when you bring some of those guys in and like Chauncey and all these guys, like we kind of they came in and it's almost like I'm like, are you guys building this team? Like, do you guys know these guys throughout? Like, you know what? And no, I mean, they just came in and became part of us instantly. So they're really cool guys, and it's really good to have them on the team just because of the different aspects they bring to the room.
Okay, a couple more before we get to your big event coming up. In
Mhm.
terms of the scheme, they always talk about new wrinkles and how the scheme evolves. How so far do you feel this scheme has evolved to fit the strengths of what you guys do well?
Yeah, they Shane is doing a good job. I feel like with putting us, he's trying to put in situations where we should go out and win your matchups because we do have a really good front seven as well as our back. So we're trying to work hand in hand. He's calling the plays to be able to put us in great situations. So that's just another thing was like he's doing it for us, and we need to go out there and do it.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Bobby O, who's back from the back injury and
Mhm.
kind of like is the glue, I guess, that holds that defense together. Can you just comment on Bobby O? I mean, does he look like the Bobby O of old?
Yeah, Bobby O is Bobby O. Bobby O, like you said, he's the glue. Like this year he holds extra meetings for the DBs and the back seven. Like he's vocal in meetings. He's taking like he is what you need in the middle of your defense. He is that guy. And I got the most respect for him as a player, and a man for how he handles himself and how he does it. So I mean, he flies around and makes plays too. I don't know if he's still up there and tackles for the league, but I know he's pretty daggone close. So kudos to him, and he's that guy in the middle of the defense.
We're talking with Dru Phillips, Giants slot cornerback. He is going to be involved with a promotion this Friday, the nonprofit Good Sports. And he's actually going to be part of a surprise donation, which by the time you all see this and hear this, it won't be a surprise. It will be out there. But Dru, let's talk about that. Can you just tell us how you kind of hooked up with Good Sports? What appealed to you about the whole, initiative?
Yeah, so I've seen good sports around and like what they've done within the youth organizations. And for me, especially, I've been up here for a year. I'm going on year two, and it's one thing I've always wanted to do. But now I kind of got my feet settled up here. I was really interested in coming around, finding an organization to work with to help give back to the youth up here in New York City. So, we reached out to Good Sports and got in contact, and now we're working.
Growing up as a young man, playing football, how important was it for, bigger community organizations to give back to the programs that you were a part of? And, do you see the same spirit embodied here in what Good Sports is doing?
Yeah. So like to have someone help out, it's always going to be like a big thing. I feel like so like Good Sports, they gave me a platform where I can help out and help with shoulder pads and helmets and gear of any sort, jerseys. So when I can do that and help out, like it doesn't just start here. It trickles down, and you can know that you're helping to impact somebody. It's not like it's doing something for the greater this community, and as well as these kids that love doing the same thing that I do. So like it's just playing football. So um, good sports, they help me out, and I'm excited for Friday.
Now, I'm sure you're not just going to drop the equipment and run. What do you, or can you share the message that you want to leave the kids with?
Yeah, the message that I want to share is more about just like, for me, it was always like football is like, don't let football be like who you are, everything, but like it's a fun sport that I enjoy playing, and just to know that there's people out here that do care and do look to help out everybody. So like, if I can do it for them, even the kids, they should be able to like, help somebody, help the person next to them out, do something good for the day, and I think it'll make a greater impact in this community.
All right, Giant fans, that is our interview with Dru Phillips. I hope you enjoyed that. There's one more thing I do want to mention real quick before we say goodbye to you. And that is for those who haven't heard, the Giants announced on behalf of John Mara. Actually, John Mara put out a statement that he's been recently diagnosed with cancer and he's undergoing treatment. And John didn't, the statement didn't say what kind of cancer he has, but I just wanted to take a moment to wish John Mara well. I am a cancer survivor. I know what the treatments do to a person, how they knock you out, how they just absolutely break you down and rob you of your strength, and how hard it is to live through those treatments. But it's necessary. If you want to live and, beat cancer, those treatments are generally necessary. When I had cancer, I was in my early 40s. John is, I believe, 70 years old. And the older one gets, the harder it is usually for the body to recover. So I just want to say, regardless of how you might feel about John Mara, at the end of the day, he's a human being. He's a father, a husband, a grandfather. He's the patriarch right now of the New York Football Giants. And cancer is just a really bad, bad disease to have to deal with. The treatments are not fun. And I just want to send best wishes to John Mara and hope that he can beat cancer, because that is just not something you want to deal with. All right, Giant fans, as always, thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. If you made us your first listen of the day, we appreciate that as well. The NFL season is finally here. So for your next listen, go check out and get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Rowland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Giant fans, that's going to do it for this edition. I will see you tomorrow with an all-new episode of Locked On Giants.